There have been a number of improvements to the way Adobe Muse handles rectangles and image frames. Let's look at some of these improvements in action. Now, the easiest way to add an image inside of Muse is to pull down under File to Place. You can select that image, and then by pressing and dragging using the place gun, resize the image on the canvas. Double-clicking on that image allows you to select the image inside of its mask to resize it, and then press and drag to move it inside the mask to a different crop in essence. Alternatively, I can come in and select a rectangle tool and press and drag a rectangle onto the canvas. Now, if I want to place an image, I can pull down under File to Place here and grab that image again. But if I click and release, it's just going to place outside the container. It doesn't fill the container automatically. What I need to do is right-click to cut that image onto the clipboard, select that rectangle, and then right-click to select Paste as Background Image. When it's placed as a background image, I can come to the control panel to the Fill drop-down and select things like, instead of fitting original size, Scale to Fill. I can also control the position or how that fill behavior happens. Now, this is awfully nice in the world of responsive design, but I start to bump into a conflict. If I pull down on File to preview the page in the browser, you'll notice I have the two images here, and as I press and drag the side of the browser to resize it, my image on the left is resizing both height and width, and that's good for a photo that's appropriate. The container on the right, on the other hand, is resizing in width but not height. A new capability in Adobe Muse is I can now select rectangles, and in the Resize dropdown, the responsive area here, I have the option to select responsive width or responsive width and height, which will scale both the height and width of that object. Another new feature that I have is similar to InDesign to create image frames. Let's say I want to create a bunch of image containers, but I don't really have the photos quite yet. I can come in and select an image frame here. Let's go ahead and copy this guy and paste it to a new location. I can double click on that object and just hit delete on the keyboard. That gives me a frame that I can now use to flesh out more of a wireframe structure that I can always come back later when I'm ready. Select a number of images here and just click and release to place them into each of those containers. If you've ever tried to create a circle in Adobe Muse, you know that it can be rather challenging. Let's come in and select this content, and I'm just going to move it down on the page. Let's say I want to create a circle in Adobe Muse. I can come in and with the rectangle tool, press and drag a rectangle on the canvas. I can apply a fill color to that rectangle, and if I work with the rounded corner option here in the control panel, I can round out the corners, and by dialing up a high number in the corner radius, I can come pretty close to a perfect circle. Now, if I want to stretch that object out for an ellipse, I'm really getting rounded corners and not a pure ellipse. So a new capability in Adobe Muse is when I come over to the tool panel, instead of selecting the rectangle, if I press, I can select an ellipse tool. With that ellipse tool, I can press and drag to create a more pure ellipse that I can come in and fill with a color. We'll select a lighter color here. Alternatively, when I press and drag with that ellipse tool, if I hold the Shift key, it's going to always draw a perfect circle for me that I can come in and again fill. I encourage you to give these new features a try.